I'm Mark.
And I'm James, and this channel's all about gaming from a slightly different perspective.
We've both been gaming for decades across early consoles, handhelds, and onto modern systems, and we wanted a place to talk about the games honestly, without hype, shouting, or chasing trends or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, no new game can, there's no judgment against any new game, any old game. Every now and again, we'll look back from where gaming came from and where it is today, and pretty much how it's changed in our perspective, especially in our retro section.
Yeah. So this is our first video, obviously. We thought we'd start right at the beginning, how we got into gaming and what this channel is going to be about going forward. So, me, how did I get into gaming? Way back in the mid-80s. My first console was the Atari 2600. It wasn't something we picked up from a shop. My granddad bought it me from a bloke in the pub. No box, no manuals, just the console, 2 joysticks and 2 games, Pong and Combat.
Nice.
And that was it. They were the only games I had because no one in my family had any idea where you were supposed to buy video games back then. I'm not sure many shops actually sold them, really. You had to kind of know someone that knew someone to get hold of them. Times were different. So whenever I was at my grandparents' house, I played them endlessly for the next few months until the console broke, because they didn't last very long back then either. And it was time to move on. Looking back, it sounds mad, but I think that's what really did it for me. You weren't chasing the next release. You just learned a game inside out, played it for hours on end. They were consistent of like 3 levels, 4 levels, it just didn't last that long. But you just kept playing and playing because they were addictive and you wanted to get the highest score or something like that. So for the Christmas at the end of that year, I asked the big man in red for a Sega Game Gear. And that's when my true gaming obsession began. I was introduced to Sonic the Hedgehog. And it all stemmed from there. How about you, James?
I think for me, it's very similar to yourself. It started off. I mean, I grew up in a family that didn't believe in games. They were very academic. Both my parents were teachers, but I think looking back and trying to think back all those years, I think I'd probably been about 4. The odd occasion going over to my granny's and playing Pong on some obsolete Boots gaming console that I've never managed to find ever.
Right.
I've looked everywhere to find it. It was basically just a stick with a knob on top that went up and down. That's all it was. And I think at the age of 5, I, similar to you, asked for a games console, and I was bought a Sega Master System. And that introduced me to a whole new world where it was Sonic the Hedgehog and Alex Kidd in Miracle World. By that time, Tasmanian Devil was out. And
It was
one
kind
of
of
my
the same
all-time,
generation, wasn't it, as the Game Gear, really?
yeah,
It was like the same games, really, that were on there.
pretty much. I think it was one of the first mainstream consoles. Playing Psycho Fox, where other people, like my old childhood friend, was playing on Super Mario World. I was playing on Psycho Fox, and the contrast between the two was massive. I mean, it was a weekend pleasure being able to go over to David's house and play on Super Mario World with 4 buttons on the right hand
Yeah.
side of the controller rather than 2 on the Master System. It's just absolutely mental.
Yeah.
So that's where I began, and then I got a Game Boy after that, and then the passion just kind of grew and grew and grew, and it just went on from there, really.
I never had a
So
Game Boy, not 2 years later. So, but I kind of stuck with Sega for a few years. And that when I think after the Game Gear, I got a Mega Drive. And then my parents, being sticklers that they were, refused to let me connect it to the TV in the living room. Assuming that I'd break the TV or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah.
So they actually bought me like a 14-inch TV for my bedroom. So I kind of got a TV for my bedroom out of it as well, which was a good deal.
It's mental to think that back in the day, a 14-inch TV was absolutely huge. There's a certain hilarity when I got my Game Boy, is that coming from such an academic family and not, it being frowned upon of playing games or video games at least. My mum spent most of the time on Tetris. I couldn't get it off her. It's absolutely insane, but yeah, that's where the passion starts and where it grows on to where we are today.
Huh? That's good. I never got my parents on any video games, so that never happened. Well, don't know why, but so recently and we're both big lovers, aren't we, of Final Fantasy VII? Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there as well that are. And we've played. We were really excited, both of us, weren't we, when the remake came out? And I remember playing that
in lockdown.
Yeah, in lockdown. It was a perfect time. Apart from people who played Animal Crossing, it was Final Fantasy Remake or Animal Crossing, depending on what system you're playing, I suppose. Yeah, and it was amazing at the time, I think. This has gone on a bit of a tangent, it is, but because when we got to certainly the late 90s, that was like the big game-changing game, I think, because prior to that, games we played, probably, if you took the long and short of it, you could probably complete them in a couple of hours or something like that, if you really put your back into it. Yeah, some of them were hard. Ghouls and Ghosts, for example, was a absolute pain, but I don't think I ever completed that. But yeah, Final Fantasy VII was on the PS1. Yeah, it was, 50 hours or something? It must have been.
At least that I would have thought. I mean, you're going back to a time when there was no online forums, really. There's no online guides or anything like that. You had to kind of figure it out and work on logic and just using your brain for a bit rather than just reading up on things.
Exactly.
But
when I got the game as well, it was, I can remember thinking, why is this box so thick? And then getting home and realizing there was 3 discs in it, or that was the first PlayStation game, I think, that had more than 1 disc that I can think of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
It was a totally new concept when you got to that point in the game where it asked you to insert disc 2 or 3 or something like that. You thought, it's not going to delete my game save here, is it? Or we're not going to, as soon as I eject the disc, we're not going to lose where I am after 40 hours or something.
Saving to a memory card as well. Big risks.
Yeah. Luckily, I never had any problems with a PS1 memory card, but some people did, didn't they? I mean, it was literally kilobytes of data, I suppose, if that. Probably
not very big, really, in retrospect to today. But yeah.
I remember managing it. When you could bring up the management option for the memory card, and it had 20 cubes or something like that, and you had if you needed something in there, you needed to delete it off and push it around. There was no way backing it up or anything. You had to manage which games you were going to keep and which you weren't.
Pretty much, yeah. It was it was a tough time compared to today's standards, really.
And I'm sure the Final Fantasy game save took up 3 or 4 blocks or something. It wasn't just one.
You're going back some time now, I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, you've only got 8 megabyte memory cards, so that's it's quite a chunk of your memory that you're saving to.
Yeah. I'm not going to bore you with details though, but
no.
It was different time, wasn't it? But we were both really excited when Remake came out, like we said, and then Rebirth as well. Recently, I've been playing it again. This is why it's at the forefront of my mind, because I got the latest version, the Switch 2 version. Just thought I'd play through it again, and it's pretty much the same game. There's a few graphical issues around the hair on people. It's probably not as high resolution. Yeah, but it's still the same game, and it's still really enjoyable to play.
Yeah, but take it back to like the whole point of the graphics issues being around people's hair, and then take it back to where it all began, where it was just like pixel squares. You know, the way that things have moved on, it's phenomenal. So I you know, I'm quite forgiving with things like that. So I look at Sonic at the moment. I was playing on Sonic on the Master System a couple of weeks back, and just looking at it on a new age TV, it's just like watching squares move across the TV. It's not, you know, it's not. It doesn't. I don't think it plays as well. I don't think it looks as well as it did back then.
No.
But then, you know, technology's changed, so
Well, it's the
it's
pixels on
absolutely
the
insane.
TV. There's too many pixels these days, so you end up with like a blocky edge around everything, even if it's in HD or something like that. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I don't think there's any way at all of playing Final Fantasy the original in its original format anymore, unless you've got a PS1, because every version of it that's on the PC or the PlayStation or the Switch, yeah, exactly, yeah,
It can come up.
every version that's emulated, it's been upgraded, you know. So unless you plug in the actual PS1, you can't
Yeah.
see how bad the quality was back then.
I
Really,
don't
you know.
even think on the, you know, on the ports on PS4, PS5 certainly, even from the old ports over from the original games, they still, I mean, they still look, I don't know, they still look good, but
Yeah,
I don't think you can strip away the original like kind of set. The introduction of that game in particular for me was phenomenal because it just looked amazing for the time.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, when it zooms down into the city and onto the train, and Cloud jumps off,
Yeah.
you've never seen video move into actual game footage before by that point. You know, it
So
was groundbreaking, wasn't it? Really, you know.
yeah, it's really, really, really cool
Yeah,
to
yeah,
kind of see. And I do think, you know, with some of the newer games, they may have forgotten parts of where they came from, but
yeah. Well, you're not a
I
fan
think
of which one have you not a fan of recently? Which one is it?
which
One with
what Final Fantasy
Clive
is
in it. Yeah, with the Clive in it. So
16. I
16.
refuse to accept that's a Final Fantasy game, partially because, and it might be discriminative to some, but you don't call a hero Clive. I think that's just absolutely mental.
No, I mean that could be the Japanese picking that name, thinking it's
So, you know, I
a
have a
common
Japanese
name.
friend, and of fun a few years back, I actually asked her and said, "Look, you know, what's the Japanese like translation for Clive?" And she looked at me and burst out laughing and said, "It's Clive." And that kind of that downed me a little bit. I thought, oh, right, okay, so it doesn't mean like blade or anything like that. So, but still, I mean,
No
you know,
offense to anyone called Clive out there, obviously, but
not at
it's
all, not at
the
all. I just
Japanese
didn't
must
think it.
really thought it was a cool name. I think.
Who am I to say any different?
But yeah, you're not a fan of that one, but we are a fan of the remake and Rebirth, and we're
Yeah,
awaiting the part 3, aren't we now? So
I think when the third part comes out, I'll do a replay of the first two again. I already did. I think I've done the original twice now. Once originally, and then a second playthrough ready for Rebirth. And then when the third one finally gets close to being released, I'll do a playthrough and play through, so I get the entire story again. Because you don't get that. I think that's slightly upsetting for me is that we've had to wait. We're of the generation, really, if you think about it, that as kids we could play it all the way through because we got all 3 discs at once.
yeah.
And now it's a case of like, right, well, they'll release one section of it, and then they don't do it immediately. They make you wait a few years, and it just
They're not
it
making you wait
drones
deliberately,
on.
though, James. It takes some time to develop these games, you know.
No, I know. I'm just impatient in my old age, you know.
What they should have done is made you wait like 10 years for all 3 together. It's better to play them one at a time, isn't it, surely?
I'm an impatient person, but but again, you know, some people might like it. Some people might enjoy it. That they get to have a bit of a break in between. I did find that with the newer ones, especially going back during the break between releases,
Mm.
lets you explore a lot more options, and you can stock up on HP and MP and different
Yeah, I mean,
summons, and
there's a lot
it's a
more to see in Rebirth as well. You could just kind of wander off anywhere, couldn't you, and level up monsters.
absolutely
Yeah.
huge games, absolutely huge, and I think that it was, yeah, they crammed as much in as they possibly could.
Hmm.
And I think that was probably the right way of doing it. And I genuinely, I don't want to see the Final Fantasy VII era come to an end. We know
No.
it's going to have to,
Yeah.
but I think they've done a bang on job at
But
rounding
if
it
you
up
think
so
about
far.
it, that Sony and Square Enix will definitely bring it all out again, probably as a box set of it, all three on the PS6, and then we'll be buying it all again because the graphics will be twice as good, I imagine, and
Yeah,
there'll be ray tracing and everything else. So yeah,
exactly that.
they're great games, they're great stories, and I want to see them the best I can. If they re-release them again in another 10 years, 15 years, I'd buy them again.
You've got to. I think every little boy at heart kind of has a story. Yes, well
Mm-hmm,
done.
mm-hmm,
I think every little boy has a story at heart that they want to see out. Final Fantasy, along with Zelda, are two of my personal favorites.
mm-hmm.
Not so much on the Zelda front at the moment. Seems Nintendo, they've obviously got other plans, but
It was the 40th anniversary of Zelda the other
it
day, wasn't it?
was, yeah, it
So,
was.
do you
And
think Nintendo will actually do anything with that?
yeah, I think they will. I think they're running a little bit late and a little bit behind, but I think they'll pull something out of the bag, and I think the fan base will fall in love all over again. But
Mm.
going back to Final Fantasy VII, just looking at the whole evolution throughout the decades that it's now been. Was it Final Fantasy VII came out in 1994? I think 94 or
7?
95. Was it 97?
No, 97, yeah. Yeah.
97. Wow,
Mm.
still a long time ago.
Mm.
But I I think if you fall head over heels for a game like that, you're just going to continually keep playing it and playing it and playing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think certainly with the modern day editions, that there's always something that's going to surprise.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, from my personal point of view, I think, yes, I was playing Mega Drive, SNES games and things like that in the 90s. But and obviously I had a PS1 leading up to Final Fantasy VII's release. And there was a few good games on it. I played Tekken, Tekken 2 and stuff like that. And one of the FIFAs, whatever FIFA was, 96, I imagine it would have been. But other than that, if Final Fantasy VII hadn't have come out, I might have sold my PlayStation a few years later and never picked up gaming ever again. And it really kind of pushed me on my interest for RPGs and story-based games. So when another RPG came out, or Final Fantasy VIII or something like that, really wanted to play that. And that fueled me to play more games. And I got more invested in story-based games, less in action. And I used to like to play a lot of shooters and stuff like that, but it's never really been my bag. And I kind of I long for a game with a really interesting story and characters. And I think that's all stems from Final Fantasy VII, really, because prior to that, games didn't really have stories. Not much. You might have, Metal Gear Solid 1 maybe had a story to it, but they weren't intricate. And the Metal Gear Solid games were very Japanese and very out there and lots of random stuff happening. And I suppose Final Fantasy games are a bit random in places, but out of all the Final Fantasy games, 7 was the least random, I think, and the least Japanesey in that term. It was just a little not as quirky, a bit more westernized. Obviously, they used Western names with Biggs and Wedge from Star Wars and stuff like that. And Barrett
No,
was the lookalike for Mr. T, really, wasn't he? And stuff like that. And they
pretty
were going for that
much.
more westernized tone to it, I think, and it worked more. at least for a westernized audience. It's still, but so moving on from that then. So you've not got it for the Switch 2, have you? But
No,
are
I
you
already
planning to?
own. um, I don't think personally I will. And the reason for that is very simple. It's the fact that I own about 6 versions of the game already, and I don't really want to own another one. And the PS5 for me is the
It's the
the
definitive
console.
version of it,
It's the
isn't it?
definitive
Yeah, yeah,
version of it,
yeah, yeah.
and I wouldn't want to tarnish that kind of that passion. I don't think, and
No.
I found it very difficult remapping the buttons. I knew exactly where I am with
Oh,
with
right.
a PS5 when playing it on the Switch, and I did play the demo, and it was perfect. There's no doubting that, but
Hmm.
I just found it really, really weird with everything being in a very different place. So for me, it's a Sony winner. But again, that's not to say that
I mean, it's
Nintendo.
essentially a Sony game, isn't it, really? It's just kind of moved over now. Final Fantasy always existed more on the Nintendo platforms, and then Final Fantasy VII moved it over to the Sony platforms, and then they ran away with it, basically, and it's only just started coming back.
I do think, I mean, with the exception of Final Fantasy III, which is supposed to be 6, actually, if I get that right, between the Japanese and the US
Yeah,
ports.
yeah, that's right.
Nintendo always had that run, but the backbone and the hardware in Nintendo never really excelled. They never really. That's the thing with Nintendo. They never really needed to excel with the hardware because they sell based on the primary IP, which is
Mm-hmm.
it's either Mario or Zelda. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
they don't have to fight for
Don't
that
forget
market.
Kirby.
And Kirby,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. But they don't have to fight for the hardware kind of side of things because they've already made that name. And realistically, if you think about it, going back to the 90s, there were only 2 game manufacturers out there, and it was
Yeah,
Sega or Nintendo.
yeah,
Sega have forever relied on Sonic. Nintendo have forever relied on Kirby, Zelda, and Mario,
mm-hmm.
and they don't need to push their business any further. If they don't want to, they don't have to.
No.
So moving it to Sony and having that ported onto I'm gonna say, and I don't like the phrase, but a superior piece of hardware to boost and improve the graphics and the playability of the
Yeah,
game.
it allowed them to push the games more, didn't it? I mean, I don't think
Yeah,
if Final Fantasy VII would have, or the Square would have wanted to put it on the N64, for example, it wouldn't have fit on that cartridge.
no, and you wouldn't get the visual effects that you got from the PlayStation either. There's a very different comparison on video over a cartridge than compared to a CD.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it would have been fine, but I think
mm.
it works better on the CD, and I think that's where their strength is now.
Yeah, exactly. But I think looking at the stats, the Switch 2 is selling much better than the Switch 1 did, and that's probably because games like this can now be ported onto it. They've got the Resident Evil games coming out in the next couple of days. They're looking really good as well because the RE engine runs really well on the Switch 2. Again, it's a hair issue. The hair's not amazing on it, but everything else seems to be running at 60 FPS and stuff like that. So it's,
For sure, Nintendo don't need to sell the hardware. They've done a phenomenal job with the Switch and the Switch 2.
yeah.
I mean, I own every Nintendo console. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
proud Nintendo owner. But so, they were. I feel that they were a little bit behind the times when it came to modern technology, and they didn't incorporate a disk drive until much later.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's not necessarily a downfall. I think that's more a choice. And do you know what? It still worked.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, they went
It
with
was
the
just
GameCube,
different.
didn't they? But what was the capacity of the GameCube discs? It was because they were like
I don't think it was
mini
very
disc
big.
size, weren't they? Really?
They
Yeah,
were, yeah. So like
yeah,
you're talking 450 meg,
mm,
450 meg max, I would imagine. Without having the figures in front of me, I couldn't tell you, but
yeah.
uh,
It allowed them to put video on the games, didn't it? But they were still cartoony and more basic, and compared to where the PS2 was going at the time and stuff like that, you know.
Maybe. Twilight Princess was a big release for the GameCube, and that took. I mean, it was still cartoony, but it defined detail.
Yeah.
I look at. I still play Twilight Princess now, albeit on the Wii U rather than on the GameCube, but it's still holding up against a lot of the modern day games. Just looking at it and the beauty of the graphics. Yeah, it's a
Yeah, I
weird.
mean, they're all done really well. And one of the things with Nintendo, I suppose, as well, especially even in modern times, you can always count on them releasing a finished game. Whereas Sony, from mainly the PS4 and PS5 eras, they would release a 75% finished game and then updates for 6 months to fix everything that should have been sorted on release, shouldn't they? You know,
I think that's one of the disappointments with regarding to releasing or not releasing finished content. In particular, dare I even drag up GTA 6? It's going to be on this date, and then it's not. You never really got that with Nintendo. It was a wham bam, thank you, ma'am kind of scenario. So, and they definitely won in that situation. I think
they very rarely gave a year or 2 years notice of a game coming out either. It was maybe this is coming out in 3 months' time.
Yeah,
that would be it.
I think they a lot of companies build up the hype nowadays. Maybe a little too early, and everybody gets really super excited, and then seriously hurt when the games get pushed back. So it's a difficult situation, but some would say it's marketing, some would say it's a mistake.
Yeah,
it's
so what's the latest game you've played then? Not necessarily the newest game, but what's the last game you've been playing? That's not a retro game or something.
That's not a retro game.
Yeah.
Oh wow, the latest one would be COD 6. Is it Black Ops 6?
So on the shooters.
I've always had a thing for shooters. I have a lot of people in my life in particular that play a lot of shooters, so I get to enjoy time with them. My boss, for example, is a diehard gamer. He will wake up at 7:30 in the morning, eat his breakfast, start work at 8, finish at 5, 6, maybe 7 o'clock at night, eat his dinner, and then he's on COD all night till like 1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, and he does this rinse and repeat every night.
Does he have
insane.
Kids?
No, he's he's a single guy, 36 years old, bless him. I got a lot of admiration for him because I couldn't maintain that lifestyle, but it shows with what he does. I've played with him countless times. He tells me every day on what he's done the night before, and that he did say he was going to try to do the ranking system, but I'm not sure how far he got with that. But he's pretty red hot at that kind of shooters, so it's quite fun, quite good fun to jump in and not necessarily hang around at the back, but run forward, and then if you die, you know that someone's going to pick you up and revive you and carry on with the rest of the game. It's good camaraderie.
I think that shooters haven't really changed much in 20 years. Graphically they have, haven't they? But I think about my times playing Counter-Strike or something like that on the PC back in the day. It's still very similar, isn't it? I mean, reaction times have improved, weapons are better, it looks more realistic, but the fundamentals are still there.
The fundamentals are still there. It's something actually you mentioned to me a while back regarding old games and older consoles, but the reaction times when you're pushing buttons on a Master System is ridiculous compared to what we play nowadays standards. I really struggled playing Sonic the Hedgehog on the Master System a few weeks back. It was a case of like, jump, no, oh, there we go, right, okay, right, next, jump, Oh, there we go. Right. Okay, fine. So working out timings and everything, it's different technology, but
Are
and they
you
were
sure
on
that's the
cable then.
console's reaction times and not yours?
That might be the
Yeah.
fact that I'm just old age, but I'd hope not. Apart from COD, I am doing a playthrough of Breath of the Wild at the moment, actually.
Oh, right. How many
Um,
times is that through that then?
Probably three, I think.
Three? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I wanted to play. As you see, I kind of got my hopes up. I fell for that mistake where I kind of it's the 40th anniversary, and if they're going to release a new Zelda, then I'd like to kind of work my way through them again. So
Mm.
I started Breath of the Wild, and I've done all um, four beasts and everything, ready to go and hammer Ganon at Hyrule Castle. But I've had to take a bit of a back step due to work and everything. But that takes a lot of my time and gives me a lot of pleasure of just sitting there at home,
Yeah.
feet up, playing
Yeah,
on a
it's the same.
handheld console.
It's
Again,
a
I don't
good.
necessarily have to play it on a TV. I sit there and play it on the Switch itself, and
It's
just
good for mental health as an escapism and things like that, isn't it?
it's phenomenal. For me personally, with what I do for a job, the stress is quite high at times, and I find that there isn't much of a better release than just sitting down and having an hour on a game at the end of the day. Just
Mm,
clears the noise in the back of the head for me
definitely
personally.
does. Yeah. So the game I've been playing recently, which you've got to try.
Okay.
Everyone out there has got to try this game. It's called Thank Goodness You're Here. I've seen it pop up on PC before and stuff like that. I think it's been out a couple of years or something. Um, and it was in the PlayStation catalog, so obviously it's just a free download when you've got the PlayStation catalog. So I thought I'll give it a go. I've seen it in various websites and stuff over the years. And I started playing it and I thought, this is really weird and cartoony, and I'm not sure this is even a game as such. But then after playing sort of 20 minutes, half an hour, anyone that's played it obviously will know it's set in a fictional town in Yorkshire, and all the characters in it have got Yorkshire accents, and it's that kind of English humour somewhere between Monty Python and Fawlty Towers or something like that. It's just really
Wow.
out there and a little bit weird, and you just play this little yellow guy who's like a salesman or something, and you go from around this town trying to do little quests. I think the game only lasts about 3 hours or something in total, but it's so funny and there's jokes everywhere. It's just really funny. You've got to give it a go. Right, so I think we'll wrap it up there. There's a Nintendo Treehouse later tonight as well at 10 o'clock UK time, where they're going to discuss Mario Wonder Switch 2 version and the
Wow.
Bella Bell Park or something that add on, and then the Pokopia game. I'm sure you're really excited about Pokopia, James, yeah? Cool. So I'm sure we'll comment on that once it's been on and see what Nintendo have got to say about things. So thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and see you next time.